Hello, Eric Rainwater here. Still smoking my nice old Rocky Patel here. I want to keep talking about fatherhood, but what I want to go into now is anti-fatherhood. What is anti-fatherhood, or what's really the anti-fatherhood in our culture? And some of you may know this is obvious. It's feminism, and I think feminism is anti-father and anti-mother. It's anti-masculine, anti-feminine. Feminism only appears to empower women, but really it disempowers them, and it hates fatherhood because it's the protection. Because fathers are the protection of the mothers, of the feminine. We need the feminine for life to go on, for life to really have any kind of real meaning. But we also need the fathers to protect and to build things, and to lend strength and fortitude and encouragement. And so if you're the enemy and you were told from the beginning the seed of the woman will crush the seed of the serpent, it all goes back to the prologue of everything, Genesis. So in the beginning, God made male and female in his image. But then the serpent comes into the garden. And who does he go after? He goes after the woman. And Adam, the man, is not doing his job. He's not protecting his woman. He's not protecting her from the serpent. And the woman goes astray. She disobeys. And then she leads the man to do the same thing. Again, he's not doing his job. He lets her lead, and things go awry. But then the curse on the serpent is the seed of the woman, which is interesting because, like I said, the seed comes through the man, right? The egg is in the woman, but this is the seed of the woman in Genesis 3. But then, so that we're in 3, starting 15. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring, or your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And then to the woman, I'll multiply your pain in childbearing. But then here's the part in verse 16. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. But that desire for, like the way that kind of that language is in the Hebrew, it's like you're going to want to tell him what to do, but he's going to be stronger than you in one sense, in the physical sense. But as all men know, it's hard to go against what your wife says. You really want her to be happy, and you want to do things that keep peace, because it's no good, right? But things don't go well in the house if it's out of order. Now the caveat is, at the same time, the man knows there's wisdom in listening to the woman. The woman is not foolish. The woman sees things, and some of that she sees because she can't physically take on the world. The world's a scary place if you're a woman. It really is. Let's be honest. And so she sees things that the man doesn't see. She sees dangers that he doesn't see. He's like, whatever, because it doesn't scare him because it won't hurt him. But she sees things that will hurt her and hurt her children. that she needs to bring the man's attention to so that he can stand in the gap. And even as the law is laid out, it is laid out in such a way, and to modern feminist ears, it sounds horrible, right? Like the woman doesn't have a say. So if a woman makes a vow in Leviticus, then, but here's the thing: if the husband or the patriarch of the family hears what she says and he says, no, that's no good, that'll only end in ruin, he can kibosh that, he can veto that, and it doesn't matter what, he can end her vow, it doesn't mean anything. The other note is, if this is the wild part, if he doesn't, if he says, okay, go for it, like he lets it happen, and then she fails in the vow, or the negative thing happens, and there's to be punishment, the punishment does not come on her, it comes on him. Now that's wild. If the wife makes a mistake, and I didn't get in the way and say, no, we're not going to do that because that's only going to end in hurt, and the hurt comes, the hurt doesn't hit her, it hits him. And that's as it should be. He's the one that stands in the gap. He's the one that sacrifices himself. If death is coming at her, he stands in the way and he gets killed. If bad comes, he stands there and he takes it. He takes the hit, not her. And that's as it should be. And so if you were an enemy, if you were psychotic, and you wanted to go after the women, because you hate women, what would you do? You would take out the protectors. If you want the sheep, what do? You go after the sheepdogs and the shepherds. And that's what has happened in our culture. Slowly but surely. Because I've heard this theory too, that you've probably heard this said, that first wave feminism, oh, that was pretty good, that empowered women. And the real problem is these other waves of feminism, which is all muddy anyways. You know, there's not these hard lines. Here's the first wave, second, third, fourth, whatever we're in. But that early, what we call the feminist movement, is starts in the 19th century, and it's leading to stuff like women's vote, which, you know, you can argue one way or the other. I get all that, and I'm not telling people how to live, but if you go back to it and you look into it, and there's some really good, I might post some links on here. There's some good research that's been done to show that from a Christian perspective, I'm a Christian, that early feminism was not good. Now, it was responding maybe to a problem. Maybe there was a problem. Maybe, you know, absolutely. Perhaps. Maybe sometimes there wasn't a problem. But maybe the men were overpowering the women. And the men were not listening to the women. They weren't listening to their wives. They weren't being what's truly called chivalrous. See, we think chivalry is just knights being nice to ladies. That's not what chivalry is. Chivalry is a warrior, a strong male, submitting his strength to the wisdom of the woman. It's his masculinity is tempered and aimed by the feminine. That's the goal of chivalry. Now, obviously, it wasn't always done correctly, but that was the goal. That was the ideal. And that is a good thing. And you can make an argument that in the Victorian era, which is what we're talking about, that there wasn't true chivalry. But some of that came about, and I've heard this theory, I think there's something to it. Some of that came about by the Industrial Revolution. So, like a Proverbs 31 woman who is very productive at home, she's making money. She's doing her part to help out the family. And she's making goods and selling goods and buying land and doing deals on her end at the home. You know, and the husband's out there doing trading or making goods too, or and doing leadership in the community. But as the Industrial Revolution came along, all those cottage industries and the ways that women were industrious in the world came to an end. And so it relegated women to the home in such a way that they were just kind of, they were protected in one way, but they were disempowered. That the way they traditionally throughout history were empowered, it was taken away. Now that's interesting. But the response to some of that, which is a problem, the solution was actually the enemy using that weakness to sow wickedness. And as it's progressed on, look around. Has feminism made things better for women? No. Women are not more safe now. They're in more danger now. They're more susceptible to the depravity of wicked men than they've ever been. Because it took out the good men. It goes after the good men. Because it hates the patriarchy that built everything. You have nothing. You don't have homes. You don't have infrastructure. Just in the natural. You have nothing. You have no peace if you don't have a patriarchy. Women fill the home, but men build the physical homes. But if you take out the good men, the bad men are still going to do what they want. And you've yet to eliminate the bad men. And no woman, no matter who, can take out the bad men. They're not strong enough. And all you've had is it go from bad to worse for women. If you ever heard of Aaron Russo, he was a producer of famous movies like Trading Places, Eddie Murphy and them, and and some people he can get conspiratorial and he got 9/11 stuff maybe, but here was the thing. The thing is, because of the circles he was in, Aaron Russo rubbed shoulders with people like the Rockefellers, and this is this is hearsay, so it doesn't hold up in any kind of court of law. But the story he told before he was taken out, in my mind, my opinion, was that according to his friend who was a Rockefeller, and not just by name, but part of that Rockefeller family that helped build the infrastructure of this country, they wanted feminism. They wanted women in the workforce so they could tax twice as much. And so they could stay in power. They wanted the woman's vote, and they wanted their money, and they wanted to split the family. They wanted to divide the families, divide and conquer, so that they could have more control. Do you not see what's going on? That feminism is one of the attacks that has led to the craziness of transgenderism and 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 the brokenness in the family and all this other stuff. It is one of the attacks. It is an attack against, because it hates the feminine. It hates moms being moms. Right? I mean, sometimes a woman doesn't want to be a mom, and that's okay. There's space. There needs to be some space for that. But what's going to happen to your culture if there's no moms? It's going to literally die. This is crazy. And so, but it divides all of this fragmentation that's going on. Part of the key is understanding that what feminism has been used to do. It takes moms out of being moms. It tries to put them in masculine roles that they don't have the strength and fortitude to do. And then it takes the good, and the big thing is it takes the good men out. It silences them. It silences young men who are trying to be good men, who are trying to be innovators and build new things. It takes them out, and it takes out the feminine voice, and it's just this babbling, kooky woman who doesn't know what she's doing. But then over that is still like mostly like wicked men. Look who's still in charge, wicked men. And it's the same powers and voices that wanted and you really see it, I think, especially in like the black population. The fatherhood has been utterly destroyed. They were like in America, the black population was coming up out of slavery. They were starting to build and become strong. And what did they do? They got in there and they got them hooked on the government money, got them hooked on drugs, and they took out the fathers, and they convinced them that, they're always going to be victims and there's no hope. You got to depend on us and do what we say. We're here for you. And it's like, it's still wicked people at the top just telling you what to do. You're more enslaved now culturally than the early 20th century. Even under, like, you hear some of these older black men that were under the Jim Crow laws, which were evil, and they say it was better, right? Because the fight was more understandable, but you could still like do things. Like there was still the home was still there, and they didn't, and they dismantled that. They destroyed it, and it destroyed their culture. And now their idea of what it means to be a man is to be a freaking hoodlum, freaking gangbanger, like idiot. It's a bunch of Andrew Tates out there running around, thinking they're bad to the bone. No, you're a bunch of cowards. You're a bunch of psychos. You're not building anything. You're not, it's dumb. And you're not doing anything for your people, for your society, for your culture. How is that helping anybody? I do believe that black people are going to have a slightly different culture than like white Americans. Like we all come from different places, and we're all going to have a little bit things different. But the things that help us succeed, many of those elements are the same. Why do white families and Asian families succeed more? And why do some, like even immigrant families, not illegal immigrants, but why do people come here and they do well? Because the American system overall helps people do well, and it's because they're family units and they do things as a family, and the family's together and they grow and they succeed. And they're all going to be a little different, and that's good. That's a beautiful thing. But the basics of humanity is there, and that's why they succeed. And if you don't have that, what you're going to end up with is a few power-hungry people that are willing to sell their soul to be in power. And they're like, we want equality for everybody, equity across the board. Yeah, equity for the majority, all equally poor and pitiful, and then power for a few. If you don't see that, you're blind. If you don't see what has been going on and what has been confronted, is that the powerful elite, the few, wanted to be in charge of the many and tell them how to live their lives, and we're gonna take care of you. Yeah, we're gonna make everything equal. Yeah, it's all equally gonna suck. It's all equally gonna be poor, but we're not gonna be. That's how it ends up. That's all it is to it. That's my thought on it. If you don't see it that way, I don't know. I'm not saying I perfectly see the picture, but I think that's part of it. It to me it makes a lot of sense. And what I'm not doing is saying that men need to be, this like uber masculine. Like, we don't need Andrew Tate's in charge of the world either. We don't need Genghis Khans. We don't need Napoleons. Those are the kind of psychopaths that prosper when society is weak. When the majority of men are disempowered, these strong men who are wicked sweep through the land and take over. But when good men are risen up and good men are encouraged, and they're called to their responsibility by the voice of the feminine, right? The mothers and the wives, and they call their men up to do the right thing. So they listen to that voice, and they do the right thing. Then things are more harmonious. People are more successful, and the family unit and the civilization prospers. And that's what we need to see. And it goes back to what I said before, because all this transgenderism stuff, this confusion, we all go through that. What are you talking about? We all don't know what the flip it means to be a boy or a girl when we're little boys and little girls. When we're teenagers, we're confused. But that's what a father is there for. A good father and a good mother will teach them and reveal by example what it means to be a good woman and a good man. And that's what we need. And that's what's missing. And that's what we need. And I'm not talking about a utopian vision where this all works out perfectly. It's not that at all, because a utopian vision thinks that it can eliminate all the threats. Well, how are you going to go about that? And how are you determining the threat? But a realistic, good patriarchy that is empowered and in partnership with a good matriarchy sees that there is evil in the world and it must be stopped, but it also sees that there's good in the world and it must be, that's what's being protected so that it grows. And that it's centered around that, around the family unit. And so anything that is trying to attack that is not good. I don't care what they say. I don't care how Christian they think they are. Anything that tries, like, goes in and tries to switch the roles and says there, every time it says God the Father, they would say God the Mother, or where it attacks the family, or it says that it's okay to be to have, that it's healthy and normal to be other than what God created you to be. And God didn't create you a homosexual, and He didn't create you women to be men or men to be women. And anywhere on that spectrum, whether you're a woman who literally thinks she's been confused and thinks she's a man, or that she wants to live masculine roles because feminine roles are weak, and vice versa for men. Men are not women. And a man who says he's a woman or wants to be a woman is most likely a pervert and doesn't want to do righteous things. He wants to do wicked things. And the world's full of wicked men and perverse men. But the only way to stand in the way of what those perverse men will do, whether on every level, is for good men to rise up. That's how I see it. Take it for what it is. If I get a bunch of trolls on this video who don't like it, I don't care. Whatever. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you. May He give you His rest.